talking to AMD today. I'm so excited. It's been a long time since I feel like I've recorded a podcast. I had to look for equipment all over my house. It was very fun, but I'm super stoked to be here. I'm super stoked. This is probably our last episode of the year. So this is a hard close. We've been working really hard behind the scenes, hence why I haven't recorded a podcast myself lately. We've been working really hard on the store, which is really cute and doing really well. So if you haven't checked out our merch yet, go to YAS.stripper.com. And also been doing all of these transcripts of past episodes. It's taken a lot of time, but it's been so much fun listening to our past episodes. So yeah, if you haven't listened to those in a while, I suggest giving them a revisit. Or if you're new to the podcast, go backwards. It's really fun. But today we're going forwards with Luna. Luna is our guest today. Will you please say hello to everyone?
Hi, I'm Luna Sophia Miranda, and I'm hardcore fangirling right now because I've been listening to this podcast in the locker room of the strip club.
The locker room?
Years.
Like in your headphones?
Yeah.
I love that. That makes me so happy.
Nobody upstairs and there's no money to be made. I'm just all right, I'm just going to go downstairs and listen.
I love that. Well, I mean, technically it's your peers, it's like hanging out with them in the locker room essentially. So that is really cool. Thank you for sharing that and for being here today. Thank you so much. You have so much going on. I'm so excited to talk about your life and your passions, which is sex workers in movies, right? Am I getting that right? Okay.
Yes,
can you fill in the blanks? Yeah.
If there was if I could have just one tagline, like Luna Sophia Miranda, obsessed with sex work in movies, that would be my thing.
Right on. You need a t-shirt or something that says that. That's awesome. So, okay. So the way we started getting talking is you hit me up because you want to talk about movies and stuff. And you sent me this really comprehensive, super cute meme list of all of these different sex worker movies out there. And some of them I hadn't really heard of before. And some of them obviously I've watched, like Showgirls. Who hasn't watched Showgirls? Right? Everyone's seen Showgirls. So it's not just me. Okay. But Paris is Burning, I've never seen that one. So I watched that. I'm just going to go through this list really quick. Working Girls from 1986. The movie Stripper, oh my God, was so good. Also 1986. Paris is Burning, 1990. Showgirls, 1995. Mamu and a Mother 2. I didn't watch that one, 2018. Nights of Cabiria, 1957. Boogie Nights, again, right? We've all seen that one. And Zola. I haven't seen Zola yet.
That's a fun one.
Yeah? Fuck, I have to watch that. And then the last one, Shiva Baby, which I also haven't seen yet. I mean, you sent me a big list. I felt like I had this homework.
No, we hate homework.
No, this was very fun homework. So I'm guessing you've seen all of these movies.
I have seen all of these, and I would like to say that I put them on the list because I find them interesting. I don't necessarily think that it's a good or bad representation of sex work, but it's out there. And I was like, these should be on a list somewhere so that people can see them, so that sex workers can see them and form their own opinions about what's going on screen.
Right. Well, I have a lot of opinions about
your opinions.
So the first one I watched was Stripper, the documentary. That one. Do you want to give a synopsis to the audience about what that movie was about?
Yeah. So it's a documentary that takes place on the West Coast of the United States and Canada. And they follow a bunch of dancers from different clubs. But the thing they all have in common is that they're all competing in the first international, exotic dancing. I don't even know if it's international.
It was called the Golden G-String Awards, and it was international. There were people there from Japan, Switzerland, I think, like Switzerland or Sweden, Canada, and all across the US and maybe France. There was a lot. There were international, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And they're all preparing to go to this competition in Vegas to compete for a lot of money and
Yeah.
show their exotic dancing skills on stage at a convention.
Right, right. It was it was really fun watching. First of all, it the way it was shot, it didn't feel like a documentary at first. It was shot very interestingly. But as time went on, I realized that it was a documentary, but it was just done so like artistically. Did you notice that? Yeah. Make sure you say yes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's okay. We'll edit that. We'll put a mark right there.
My favorite part of that film is when they're in Canada and they're in some like backwater town where there don't seem to be a lot of women. There's a lot of like ranchers and like cowboys there, and they're at the bar watching these women dance. And then the women pack up their stuff, they pack up their sequin outfits and get into a car and they drive away. And you see the men waving, and one of them goes, "I wish I was a stripper." I
Yeah.
died.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so beautifully done. Um yeah, and it was the things that like I loved about it though were the costuming and how serious everybody took it. Um a lot of the dancers like they went and got training, they got professional dance training, and they took their costumes really seriously and took their stage props really seriously. And this was in like 1987, right? So this was when, because we are, right, in the pole dance community and the stripper community with like the contests that we have, we're thinking like, oh, like this is still kind of new. Like the first big strip club competitions were like, you know, started in the 90s with Deja Vu, which is actually not true. You know, this was a really big event in the 80s, and it was coordinated and produced by a female stripper, which is
Hell yeah.
amazing. Yeah, considering the timing of it all, right? And like the stigma, I mean, think about the stigma back in the 80s.
Yeah, those Reagan years.
Yes.
Um, yeah. And
Yeah.
I also, I mean, you know more about this than I do, but I like to read a lot about sex work too. And it seems like in the 80s, there was a lot more similarities between burlesque and sex work, where there's
Mm,
still, like, I think a lot of these clubs were not doing lap dances, and there was like an emphasis on performance, and I that has changed
you're
obviously.
right. That's a really good point. I remember, speaking of books, I read this book, fuck. What was Strip City? That was the name of the book. A lot of us have read Strip City, very good book. And I remember in one particular part, it was like the late 90s, and she was exiting the stripping industry, and she started talking about how lap dances became more of a normal thing, and how like the lap dancing was escalating at the time, and she was accustomed to less of that, because she had been in the industry for a while. And so it's so interesting that you say that, because you're right. There would have been this progression of like from this is all on stage to all of a sudden now like pussy in your face.
Yeah, I mean, I started dancing in 2018, and I basically, the bulk of my income comes from lap dances.
A
New
hundred
York
percent.
City is like infamous for like nobody cares about your stage performances. In fact, the more you dance, the less likely you are to be hired. They want you to sell dances, rooms, and bottles.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
know.
and I really try and like hammer home on that point when people approach
Mm.
me and they're like, I want to be a stripper. I I make sure to hammer home on that. Like, it's not what you think it is. And I think this movie is like a really cool example of how, like, you know, stripping is super performative and fun, but like the conversation needs to continue into what it has evolved into. And I
Yeah.
especially like to reference books and movies when I hear burlesque performers saying things like, well, I'm a sex worker too. And it's like, I understand why you would think that, but I need you to know that things have changed. They're not the same anymore. And the risks are different. The job is different. The skills are different.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, and you can really see how different it was back then. Like when they look at the crowd, right? And we're still talking about the documentary Stripper. Like the crowd is super engaged and enthralled and like really watching, and they're there to watch the performances. It is very different than what it is now, definitely. And it was so like, and it was like really important to the dancers, it seemed, to like connect with the audience, you know, and to like tell a story back then. And that's what a lot of this movie like showed me. Yeah,
I think a lot of dancers still feel that way.
I think so too.
But the framework, the way that clubs are set up, that's just not a priority for them.
Yeah. One extremely disappointing aspect of the movie, however, was the 100% lack of diversity. I mean, it was hella white. And that was pretty offensive. Yeah.
I watched this YouTube video. It's called like the Black History of Strip Clubs. It's a fantastic video.
Yeah,
and
I've seen that one.
I was like, why? Like, more people should watch this. More people should know that.
Yeah.
Stripping, pole dancing, the aesthetic, the fashion, the nails, the hair, it comes from Black women, trans Black women, Black women. And I feel like I don't see like a lot of the pole studios, I don't see that being like acknowledged or like honored.
Don't get me started on that. We'll be on this podcast for like 5 hours if we start talking about what pole studios are doing. We have a whole episode dedicated to that. But I've listened to it. 100%. But and also like Making It Rain also came from the Black strip clubs. Like every aspect that we find intriguing and interesting and fun and erotic, like it all comes from there. And so from Black women and Black dancers. And so that's why for me, I'm watching it and I'm like, nobody, like you couldn't find a single Black stripper or even any other color, a person of color. There wasn't anyone. It was all, I'm thinking it was all white chicks. So yeah, that was my biggest thumbs down on that part.
Parade of whiteness that we are all forced to endure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on because we have a whole bunch here. Okay. So then I watched Working Girls, directed by Lizzie Borden in 1986. What do you think about Working Girls?
Well, I found out about Working Girls because I have Whorephobia, which is a collection of essays about strippers. I believe you have an essay.
The book. Yes, I am in that book. Yes.
That is one of my favorite books. It's right here in my sex worker library. And Lizzie Borden opens the book talking about how she was an escort and she would make money and then shoot some scenes for her film and then make more money and shoot more scenes for her film. And I was like, that is so badass and also so difficult to do.
Oh, yeah.
And watching the movie, you see like this was her world. She was not an outsider making a film about sex workers. She was a sex worker making a film about a world.
100%.
And it's one of the only sex worker movies I've ever seen that feels like it is about the work, like the grind.
Literally. Yes. So just for the audience who's never seen Working Girls or heard about it, it's basically a day in the life of full service sex workers who work in a brothel. I want to say it's like set in New York, I think. And it's literally the whole movie is practically set in the brothel. And it doesn't really have a storyline, right? Which is a creative choice. It didn't have like this person did this, and then these were the results, and then this was the solution, right? It was just like you were following a sex worker in the day, like her work day, basically.
You're kind of like
Right?
a fly on the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at first, I'm not going to lie because I'm conditioned, right? I'm not perfect. I'm still a conditioned human being, right? I'm conditioned. Like, there's like this storyline here. Like, and, and then halfway through it, I'm like, oh my God, I get it. I'm like, because at first I was like, there's no storyline. I don't have character development. And also, like, the opening music was so bad. I was confused. But once I got past that, right? Because I'm like, I gotta watch this. I gotta watch this movie. I gotta talk about it. Then, like, halfway through it, I'm like, oh, here we go. And then everything made sense from the beginning. But it was also hard. There were a couple scenes in the very beginning that are hard to watch, and that's what I think makes it so good, right? Is that, like, you're forced to see, like, what it's like. Like, that shit was real. That movie felt very, very real to me. Like, the frustration, and then, like, I got to get out of here, and the pressure from your boss. Like, I have felt all of that.
I mean, that kind of like fly on the wall type of movies, they're hard to watch. And I think they isolate a lot of people, especially when we grew up watching like really fast paced things.
Yeah.
But I also get what you're saying, like being forced to kind of like watch it and sit through. A lot of being a sex worker is like boredom, is like hours of boredom and like sitting and waiting for like someone to walk through the door.
Yeah.
And I also love that it addressed racism, it addressed ageism, and that
Yes.
their pimp was a white woman.
Yes.
And I thought that was like very nuanced and like an important thing to show people that
Yeah.
women aren't always on the same side. They can oppress each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a really excellent point. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though, the pimp character, what was her name? The main one. I can't remember. Carol or some shit like that. But she was it wasn't Carol, but it was something, But she also, like, the movie became much more interesting when she was there too. Like, her character itself. I'm not saying like her actions were chill, but it was just like, because I loved to hate her. I wanted to hate her, and I wanted to like sit in that, and like, I
She's
wanted to hate her.
phenomenal at what she does. She's like a
Exactly.
cake with too much icing on it and like nothing underneath. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then lastly, the April was one of the sex workers, and like she couldn't get any customer, and that also, like, you're just having one of those days, and April was gorgeous. She was gorgeous, and she was just having one of those energy type days where there's just something, I don't know, this, I'm going to speak for myself. I've gone into work, right? And there's just something about me that night that is repelling everybody. Right. And it's everyone else is doing fine. But for some reason, my energy, my vibe is like, I can't get a yes to get somebody on the couch. Maybe it's what I'm wearing. Oh, I'm wearing red. Okay, I should wear pink. And you try that and that doesn't work. And it's just, sometimes you just have one of those nights. Have you experienced that?
yes, and sometimes it's not one night. Sometimes it's like 1 month where I just feel like I'm off and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on? Like, have I lost my hustle? Have I lost my spark? And it's like
Right.
I have like a meltdown. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And then I'll talk to my coworkers and they'll be like, no, me too. And because I feel like I always
That's very
blame
nice.
myself when I don't make money. And sometimes it's like we're all so busy trying to hustle that we don't see what's going on with the other dancers, and we think, oh, it's me. And then sometimes everyone else is making money and I'm not making money, but I'm like, this is what I signed up for. Like, this is the life that I chose.
Yeah, and so that's what they talk about in the movie too. Like, I'm here. This is the life I chose. This is what I signed up for. And like, at one point, one of them's like, "You'll get used to it after a while." And I remember saying that to myself in the very beginning. You'll get used to it. This is your
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. Yeah. So it was hard to watch at first because I wasn't really sure where it was going. And then it got hard to watch because I'm like, this is so real, but I couldn't look away either. And there was a part of me that felt comforted by watching that movie. Like, oh, it just because it was so real on screen, it almost like validated a lot of things, different things, because each character is almost like a different version of ourselves, right?
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
There's like the naive one who has like rose colored glasses. There's the one who's been doing it forever and is like,
Yeah. So, whew, yeah, these are good movies. I highly suggest y'all like do a thing, have movie night. Okay, Paris is Burning. That was really great. That was really well done. Documentary in 1999. It's starring a group of amazing queer and trans performers, and it's a documentary about a group of folks who are organizing drag and ballroom competitions in Harlem in the late 80s. Um, so, I know RuPaul, and I've been on his show. And like this whole documentary, I was like, saw so much of what he does on his show now on Drag Race that had to have been inspired either by the movie or by him being in these spaces during that time, which is totally possible. Have you noticed that at all?
this movie, like I saw it in high school. They showed it to us in high school. It like
Mm,
hit me in the heart. I grew up in New York City. I grew up in Hell's Kitchen, which is a very gay neighborhood. I went to a very gay high school. It was like a theater high school, public school. Most of the student body was gay and also like very Black and Hispanic heavy presence in the student body. And they showed us this movie to like educate us about the history,
it's
about queer
amazing.
history in New York, also about HIV and AIDS, which wiped out so many people in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
um I'm That's another thing I'm very passionate about is like queer history in New York, which overlaps with sex worker history.
100%.
And
Mm-hmm.
like drag is such a like big part of New York culture. There are queens that make so much money. I mean, with RuPaul now, like it's gone international. There are drag
Yeah.
stars. When you watch this movie, you see that it was really not the case back
Yeah.
then, and that the folks creating this culture were Black and brown folks who
Yeah.
were poor and doing sex work to survive. A lot of them were trans or non-binary, even though different language was used back then. They were doing sex work to support their creative pursuits and
Yeah.
also their health and their, if they wanted to transition or dress different or take hormones. It was so different back then. Like none of the support that, even though there is like not enough support for trans people now,
Right.
there's even less back then.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and after watching that, I see so much culture that was taken from those ballrooms, right? And then you're right, now it's like look at all of these people on these beautiful gilded stages. Well, that all started from a spot where they were in like these warehouse type rooms in New York, and like there was not money put into them. It wasn't super, it was glamorous, but not in the way because they were glamorous, right? It was glamorous because they were glamorous, but like the spaces weren't like it is today, how these spaces are held. And uh yeah, I just want to, I am glad that I saw that because it was like just such like clear evidence to me of like, oh, like this, all of this has been taken and run with. And now like, lots of people like, what do you
That's
make
such,
profit off of that?
I love what you just said. It's evidence. And I think that's why film is so important because it is a form of evidence. And
Mm,
if all of the evidence is made by cis white men who take other people's stories, we have a problem. We have a big
right.
I like was obsessed with this movie when I saw it. and I like went down a rabbit hole on the internet. Most of the people in that movie died very young of HIV and AIDS.
Mm,
And one of the stars of the documentary, Venus Extravaganza,
yeah.
oh my God, just beautiful Puerto Rican, Italian, like East Coast trans woman who had big dreams. She was a sex worker and she was found dead in a motel.
During the
And
filming of the
yeah,
documentary. It wasn't over
and
yet. Yeah.
that just like I think about her all the time.
Yeah.
And that sound bite of her saying, "I want to live a nice life, like I want a man, I want to move to Florida." That sound bite has been taken and like used in a lot of like music or like DJ sets.
Oh,
Yeah. Um,
I didn't know that.
yeah, and I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that clearly stuck with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who those people are that took the sound bite, but that's where I heard it actually for the first
Mm-hmm.
time before I saw the movie.
Yeah. And I mean, just to be clear, like, I don't need actual evidence to know that art has been ripped off from Black trans people for a long, long, long time now. But it was just, I think for people like me, it's important to watch it and really know it and see it unfold, and to be able to have conversations about it. And like I said, I see so much of their work that they were doing now. I'm like, oh my God, I've heard all of these things recently, like in the 2020s, because of this work that these amazing people did so long ago. And I just wish that that was honored more, you know.
It should be honored more, and I think the maker of that documentary has been criticized because the documentary changed her life, but it did not change the lives of
Ah,
any of the people who were in it.
naturally. What the fuck? Are you serious? Okay.
Which is the case with a lot of documentaries, whether they're about sex work or not. But if people want to see similar films that are about trans Black sex worker communities and also not sex worker communities, Kokomo City is
Okay.
about trans Black sex workers. Port Authority is also about ballroom culture, and it's like I think it was made more recently. Tangerine, also a more recent movie about trans Black sex workers. And I feel like there was another one on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not remembering it right now.
Are they in the writing room now, or like directing?
Wait, say
Like
that again.
Tangerine, for instance, right? Right.
No,
There. That's what
no.
I'm saying. Like, there's these movies about them, right? And so I'm sitting here like, I thought I didn't do enough research. This is my fault. But I was assuming that like it was one of them that was filming it, with Paris is Burning, and the other movies that you mentioned. Are there Black trans sex workers in the writing room? Are they directing? Are they
Nope. And
okay?
people love to make movies about sex workers,
Yeah,
but
without.
I know so many sex workers who like want to work in the movie industry and they're being like systemically shunned. And that
Yeah.
pisses me off because it's like, okay, you want to make movies about sex workers, but you're not going to like support sex workers telling their own stories. It makes my blood curdle.
Yeah, it's still happening, huh?
Oh
Okay,
my
so
God, it's getting worse.
it's so weird. Okay, so in 2020, right, a few of us did this speaking panel to the WWGA, the West, or the Writers Guild of America West, WGAW, right? And we were talking to a bunch of writers, and I don't even know who these people were, right? The camera was off. There was like, I don't know, probably like 60 or 70 writers there. And we were telling them what you're saying now. Like, what are you doing? You're writing movies about us. You're writing these screenplays about us. You don't know what you're talking about. And it causes violence towards sex workers. And like, you don't seem to care. And we're really pissed off about it. I mean, we were super chill about it, but also like adamant about what we were talking about. And so it's like you try, I don't know, it's just fucking disappointing. Like that it got worse after what? How's it getting worse?
I feel like a lot of sex workers become, and you know what, I should really speak for myself. I won't speak for other sex workers, but
Okay.
when I was 19, I realized that no one was going to swoop down and wave a magic wand and make my financial problems go away.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have someone that I could pick up and call and say, I need money. I like no like knight in shining armor was going to come for me. And I realized I'm the only fucking person that can go out there and get what I want and save myself. And
Mm-hmm.
sex work has been that space where I could do that, where I could pursue my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like no one is going to speak out on sex workers' behalf. No one is going
Yeah.
to get up on a podium and say, you know what? These people have been complaining for a long time. Maybe we should listen to them. Nobody is going to do that. It will
Okay.
happen to us.
Okay. You're right. I know that. I should know that by now.
I know, like, people should stand up for us. Like, we should have allies that stand up for us, but if they were going to do it, they would have already done it.
Yeah.
So it's
So
us.
I'm Siri Dahl, and we need to talk about Project 2025. In my 12 years in the adult film industry, I've seen a lot of political attacks. But Project 2025's plan to make pornography illegal and throw all of the pornographers in jail is really the worst example yet. So please go to handsoffmyporn.com and tell the American government that you want them to get their hands off your porn.
Paid for by Artists United for Change PAC. Handsoffmyporn.com. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
So you're working in the movie industry now.
Yes.
Okay. And yes.
Going back and forth, which is
okay.
my sleep cycle.
Okay. Oh yeah, going back. Okay, I get that because your set times would be totally different than like club times.
Yes. I'm trying to work in the movie industry. All the work I'm doing right now, I'm not being paid for. I'm entirely relying on the savings that I built at my years in the club. I would not be able to like audition and like produce a movie without being paid unless I had like spent all those years hustling and like putting the money aside.
Sure. So what's it like? Like, what can you share with us about your experience being a sex worker, working with other sex workers or not other sex workers in the movie industry?
There are so many sex workers in the movie industry who are not out.
Yeah. Okay.
About the fact that they're a sex worker.
Okay.
And a lot of people have reached out to me and like expressed that they're afraid to come out because of the stigma and that they have stories they want to tell, but they're afraid to tell them because then people are going to know what they do for a living and that they won't be able to get more opportunities. There's also like, I feel like the film industry is in a place where they're like, sex work is work. Sex work, sex, blah, 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 blah. We are in a place where the movie industry keeps saying, sex work is work. Sex workers are humans too. Sex workers deserve respect. And I'm like, you are late to the fucking game. Like the conversation needs to go far beyond that. And people hit me up all the time saying, I want to make a movie about a stripper, yada, yada, yada. Like, I would love to, like, send you the script and, like, get some feedback. And I don't want to read it. I don't, because my coworkers are writing scripts, trying to get them produced, being, you know, a lot of times people, they're not going to be like, I'm not going to take you seriously because you're a sex worker. No one's going to say that out loud, but it's in their attitude. It's in what they don't say, it's in how they treat you. And I'm watching all these sex workers who have big dreams just be like ignored and treated with apathy. And then it makes me really mad that people in Hollywood just feel entitled to like tell sex worker stories and like hit me up. I don't know you. You're hitting me up on Instagram to like ask me to read your script.
Yeah.
That I went on a tangent, but that is where we
No,
are
that's
right
fine.
now.
No, your tangent is totally fine. I mean, I recall for many years, people want to do reality shows on strippers, and I got hit up a lot when I lived in LA. And I remember in particular one reality show is like, we want to put a bunch of strippers in a house and do a contest. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. You're trying to make strippers look like housewives, like the Housewives show, or like next top model or whatever. Like, I know how those shows go down. Like, they purposely make you have drama. Like, you're not going to put a group of sex workers in a house and entice drama for entertainment. We already have enough we're up against. Please don't Jersey Shore us. Like, no. You know what I mean? And I was like, absolutely not. If that's your vision, I'm like completely out. But you know, there had been so many offers, like so many ideas, but it just, the truth is they're just not ready. Like, TV's not ready because they want to do it their own way and not the way that we're telling them it needs to be. And so it won't be right until they have us in the writing room or accept the scripts that sex workers are writing. And also, don't you think it's kind of weird that Hollywood's like, oh, you're a stripper, but we need strippers in this movie, so we're going to hire people who aren't strippers to act like you. It's like, it's giving very like Catholic, like Catholicism, right? Like the hypocrisy and the judgment and the casting away. It's giving very Roman Catholic to me. That's how I feel about it.
I love that you just made that analogy. I love that you just made that analogy.
Like with all their secrets and stuff too.
You go to confession after. I mean, I auditioned for a TV show about like an OnlyFans creator. And I didn't get the part. You know, I may have just not been right for the part. But the main girl is being played by a celebrity, and she's playing like a struggling single mom who ends up using OnlyFans to support herself. It was from a book, actually. It was a book first, and they're making it into a movie. And I looked up the celebrity who's going to be the star of this show. She's worth like millions and millions of dollars. I'm sure she's very excited about playing the part. But I'm kind of like, there are so many sex workers and OnlyFans creators who want to be actors. Why not just cast one of them? And what people keep explaining to me is like, you know, in Hollywood, like, to get funding to make a show or a movie, you need to have celebrities playing all the leading roles. Otherwise, no one will like throw money. So it's just like this celebrity driven culture where they're like, oh yeah, like we have this movie part, let's stick a celebrity in there. And it also annoys me because I'm struggling right now to build my career as an actress because I'm also still working at the club. And I told my manager, well, if I did OnlyFans, I could work during the day and avoid wrecking my mental health by going to the club and then going to set early in the morning. And I love my manager so much. He's so supportive. He's like, I'm just being real with you. If you start an OnlyFans, 50% of casting directors won't even look at you or like consider you for a part. And that's just so fucked up that like this industry can make films about sex workers and like deny me what I'm doing for survival.
Yeah. 100%. And then there's like movies like Hustler out there.
I don't know all of the tea with Hustlers.
Well, I'll tell you, here's one basic thing, and we won't get into it too much. One basic thing. In 2019, when they were promoting Hustlers on the internet and on TV and everywhere there was digital media to look at or listen to. They're promoting hustlers, and at the same time, strippers and subsequently pole dancers were getting their accounts deleted. So there's that. That's just one little thing. Yeah. And that's like, the system. That's like the fault of the entire system.
Anyway, I keep going off on these rants.
It's okay.
Pipe down so we can do the episode.
No, we are doing the episode. Everything is perfect and wonderful. And that's the whole point of talking about these movies. And because like art imitates life, life imitates art. It's like a full cycle. And in our case, in the case of sex workers and strippers, we don't get to play the way everybody else does, but we're cosplayed as by so many people when it's Halloween, when it's movies, TV, whatever, even just to look cute, even to pole dance, right? All of that. And it's just, more recognition and just like less danger and violence towards us. That would be great. Can we start there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is all good. All of these tangents are good.
In some cultures, like if you take a picture of someone, that's very bad. It's like you're taking a part of their soul.
Yeah.
We don't have that in the US. We pretty much just take pictures of whatever we want.
Yeah.
And I feel like in like white capitalist American culture, it's okay to take someone's picture. It's okay to take someone's story.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't hold weight in our culture.
Right. That's a really good point. Thank you for that. Let's talk about your things. So let's talk first about you have a movie that's coming out this month. It's November. Talk to us about your movie. Tell us about yourself.
I was in this movie called Anora. Mm-hmm. It is about a sex worker named Anora, and I play Lulu, her best friend at the club. It's a small part, but being on set was really awesome because a lot of the sex workers who were in fact, all of the sex workers on that set are creative people who are pursuing careers in music, in fashion, in the movie industry, and we've all stayed in touch and we're working together now.
That's awesome.
Projects together, yeah. And a lot of the other folks I met on that set, like a lot of the PAs, a lot of the crew, and like the hair and makeup folks have become close friends, and they just made a film with me, and a lot of them were either not paid at all or paid very little. And they're not sex workers, but they've shown me a lot of support.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. And when is the movie, like what's the release date?
October 18th in New York and LA.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about the rest of the world. I don't know about streaming. I don't get the confidential information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it came out in October.
Yes.
Got it.
That's right. Past tense.
That's okay. We can be upfront with everyone. We're recording in September. We're releasing the episode in November. The movie came out in October.
Yeah. You can check at Anora Film on Instagram, and they should have all the information there for people to see where they can see it. Okay, great.
And did you have a good time? Was it fun working with a bunch of sex workers on a movie?
Oh my God. Yeah. It was so much fun being on set. It was trippy.
Okay.
We were shooting at a club, and we were working, but like we were not working the way that we usually work. We're like,
right.
This is meta as fuck.
That's very cool.
I also feel like that was one of the first times I hung out with a bunch of sex workers not at work. And it's really nice.
Yeah.
We can just like shoot the shit and talk and not worry about like, oh, I want to talk to that guy, but is that someone else's client? Like, it was just like,
yeah, that's awesome. So Okay, everyone check out this movie, Anora, if you haven't seen it already. I'm sure it'll be streaming within a couple of months of being released in October. So I'm very excited to see it because also one of our other past guests, Charm, is also in the movie, aka Lindsay Bug. So you get to see Charm also doing their thing in the movie. Yay, Charm! Congrats. Awesome. So lastly, let's close out by talking about your film festival. What's going on with that? Give us all the
Oh
details.
my God. Well, I just produced a short film. It's not about sex workers, although I think if you watch it, you will see the subtle themes in there. It's a horror film. And I would love to like release my film with other films made by sex workers. I would love it if there was a sex worker film festival. And I know that there is one in San Francisco actually, but I would love to do some kind of film event where we screen films that have been made by sex workers because it is so fucking important that people know we're not just going to be the little dolls that decorate your movies. We make
Right.
our own movies. We tell our own stories. That's why I'm saying like the conversation has to go beyond sex work is work. Sex workers deserve respect. No, sex workers deserve to tell their own stories. They deserve to have dreams and they deserve to be able to pursue those dreams. And the film industry needs to the film industry needs to see us and needs to recognize us as professionals. If you're going to keep telling stories about us, you must include us. And I also want people to know I had sex workers on my set that because I know them from the club. If you work at a club, I know that you can work in a high pressure environment. I know that you can make snap decisions really quickly. A film set is kind of like a club. On the film set, you have like the executive producer, the line producer. At the club, you have like the owner, the manager, the floor manager, like the day, like to me, it just makes sense that sex workers would be the right candidate to like work on a film set. And I want to create a chance for like more people to tell their story and be seen by the world. Middle fingers up.
I love that. I love it. Thank you so much. So let everyone know how we can follow you and learn more about your film festival and your movie.
It's at Lunasmic on Instagram. Luna, SMIC, like orgasmic, but Lunasmic. And I will be putting all the updates on my Instagram. That's my only social media platform. Give me time. These things are hard to put together. I also need a sponsor. I can't like put my own money into this. But I will not let you guys down.
Okay, so you're looking for a sponsor. Good to know. Good to know. Also, I thought your handle was Luna's Mic, which I thought made sense to me too.
That is so funny.
I thought that made sense too.
Sorry.
I like that. Okay.
I love that.
Okay. I'm not trying to like ruin what your vision was. Okay. Could go either way. Yes. Well, this has been really fun, and I would love to share with our audience the visual deck that you sent to me that got all of this started. Okay, great. Very cool. All right. Well, do you want to say anything in closing?
Yeah, I literally wrapped 2 days ago. I produced Film Girl. It was my first film. I would not have been able to do it without support from my coworkers from the club, without support from my clients, and also all of the people who are not sex workers, but who see me and believe in me. You can learn more about Film Girl on Instagram. It's like a horror film about a horny female serial killer. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're someone who like hates how pretentious and like annoying the film industry is, this one is for you.
Awesome. Sounds great. Can't wait to see it. And can't wait to see all of your endeavors come to fruition. I can see you working really hard. I can tell that you're really passionate about the things that you do. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for you and your projects. And I can't wait to see the movie. Anora, the one. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to everyone out there for listening. Don't forget to find more episodes on YesAStripperPodcast.com and go shopping at YesAStripper.com. Bye.
And that's on Period Network.